Another movie that we checked out this week was Crank High Voltage.
Yeah, I don't think there's a 2 in the title.
AKA Crank.
I don't know if there is.
I don't think there is.
It just says Crank.
Yeah. So the first Crank was about Jason Statham gets a Chinese drug that slows down his heart, so he has to keep his adrenaline up for the next 90 minutes.
Right.
At the end of that film, spoiler, he dies. He slams into the ground.
He gets better.
Crank High Voltage literally starts a blink later, and now he has to electrically jolt his artificial heart.
Yeah, he has a heart. Somebody steals his heart.
Right. For the next 90 minutes, he has to electrocute himself to stay alive.
Another one of those stories.
Yeah.
You know,
it's actually from a Greek tragedy.
It's all shot on prosumer cameras. It was a mission of the directors of the movie to do it as such. Jeffrey, what did you think of Crank? You did not see the original.
I did not see the original
journey that was Crank.
Yeah, so
you're coming at this as a Crank
the relationship, all of the intrigue.
I have to say there was a lot of shout-outs. There was a lot of, but let's hear what that.
Well, we actually were fortunate enough to see the movie in the theater with the director and the crew. It was like a cast and crew screening. And before the movie started, he stood up and said, "I apologize for what you're about to see. So I accept your apology." You know, this is fun. It's a silly, fun movie that, to its credit, really does not take itself very seriously. It's very much a video game movie, and it tells you right at the beginning with the initial credits, which are like 8-bit, 16-bit looking credits, and there's numerous mentions of like, this is improbable, what you're about to see is improbable, and it's a video game, and boy, you should have played a lot of video games growing up, and it's video game logic, it's way over the top and crazy and fun. Unfortunately, while I did have some fun watching it, it gets boring. When you start at 11 and you try to stay at 11, you can't sustain that. Even a short movie like this was 88 minutes, less than an hour and a half long. Even a short movie like this, I felt like I got bored because you're constantly, the camera is up someone's butt, and then it's on top of a house, and then it's strapped to a baby kitten who gets chased through it's like, okay, I get it, but you become numb to it, and there's nowhere to go.
Now, before I go to you, Alex, I do want to say that it's interesting that, and the first Crank also opens on those 16-bit graphics, but interestingly enough, these directors, their next movie that's due out soon, starring Gerard Butler, is called Game, and it's where people that control playing a video game with actual real people.
Interesting.
And there's a trailer out for it. You can check it out.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like.
And you had seen the first Crank.
I had seen the first Crank, and I liked the first Crank. This one seemed a little bit more MTV, YouTube clip, almost like an Aesop's fable. Like it was these weird like short stories. I mean, it was very weird the way that it was shot, because sometimes it was just like this long narrative thing is happening, a scene is happening, and then it's just this random weird music video for 5 seconds, and then there were these weird fight sort of action-y sequences.
It's like ADD the movie.
It was ADD the movie, yeah, and I agree with you that it's, you start at 11, it's hard to keep it at 11. I thought it looked really good. I mean, I thought the action sequences were covered really good. I thought I mean, it's just an okay movie. It's just like a woo whatever movie. If you want to get, drunk with your buddies and see something that's weird and crazy and
So you didn't really like it though, or did you like it?
I mean, I liked it for what it was. I liked it enough for what it was. I wouldn't tell anybody to seek it out if they weren't a big fan of that kind of like crazy experimental thing. I think for me, props to them for using prosumer stuff, because I did not notice that at all. For me, it looked shot very, very well.
Dan, you loved the first one.
I loved the first Crank.
And why?
Okay, well, let me just say that I think normal action movies are like delicious pancakes. Crank, the original Crank was like...
You get them too soggy, then you can't really enjoy them.
Delicious pancake, they're a sweet treat. Crank is chocolate chip pancakes. It's excessive. But
It's excessive.
Crank High Voltage.
This is coming from a man who made chocolate chip pancakes.
Yeah.
Crank 2 is like chocolate chip pancakes with whipped cream, ice cream, more candy put on top,
Sprinkles,
and heroin.
and heroin and crank.
Yeah, and crank.
And ultimately, it's like okay. Here, let me say it this way: an action film, that you like. Wow, that movie was crazy. Crank, that movie was really crazy. Crank High Voltage, that movie is really, 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 right? You don't need to guess because really
astute observation from Dan.
Because really says it. A lot of reallys are just annoying. And that's what this movie was.
So you were doing something there.
Yes.
Impressive.
It is, and I was actually thinking, it's like, it does say, it shows why you need this, why you can't stay there, because if you stay there, you don't enjoy being there. You need to be here to enjoy being there. Audio listeners, I'm sorry, it was very intelligent.
Visually, it's very captivating.
Yeah, it was just too much. And the first one is too much, but in an enjoyable way. This one was too much in a very caustic, assaulting way.
Yeah.
I think the first one, I mean, it was very similar, because I felt the first one did have that sort of fable,
but
like,
not as
going
much
crazy.
craziness.
But this was just, like, where the first one, he chopped the guy's arm off, and it was crazy that oh my God, he fucking chopped the guy's arm.
Yeah.
And this was like heads, arms, so much so that you get numb to it, as you said. I recommend you seeing the first one, because that was what you want, the fun experience in a good way. Though I will say, one of the best uses of video. As Alex and I have discussed many times, we had a conversation earlier today about video, and I think this embraces its video-ness. It is that everything feels immediate.
Yeah.
And I think that is wonderful. It's not video pretending to not be.
Right.
So I felt that way about it. That's it. I loved it, but I didn't. But I liked the video.
Really.
Really.